Justin Bieber just pulled a move that left the internet buzzing. And not in a casual way. In the middle of what seemed like a chill studio session, he suddenly went live on Instagram. Fans were already losing it over the surprise stream. But what really made jaws drop was the music. Not just any music, emotional, raw tracks that hit different. And here's where things get messy. Mixed into that moody playlist were a few songs that Jelena fans recognized instantly. Selena Gomez favorites. The kind of tracks that felt way too personal to be played live, especially while married to someone else. And according to people close to the situation, Hailey was far from okay when she found out. Sources say she wasn't just upset, she was blindsided, because this wasn't just a random playlist playing during a late-night vibe. What she allegedly discovered was a hidden playlist on Justin's phone, a curated, intentional set of songs that, to anyone paying attention, ice-screamed nostalgia, longing, and unhealed memories tied directly to his past with Selena. And if that's not enough drama, it came at a time when cracks in their relationship were already visible. Separate entrances, separate exits, a quiet tension building in the background. But to really understand why this moment felt like a bomb going off, we have to rewind. Because this isn't just about one playlist. It's about a decade-long triangle, emotional history, and the public unraveling of what was once framed as a perfect love story. To understand the gravity of this moment, you have to go back to where it all started, not just with Justin and Hailey, but with the legacy of Jelena. Justin Bieber and Selena Gomez's relationship wasn't just a teenage romance, it was an emotional epic that defined a generation. They began dating around 2010, and what followed was nearly 8 years of emotional chaos, high-profile reconciliations, and painful breakups. Their relationship was unpredictable and messy, but undeniably magnetic. Fans weren't just watching. They were emotionally invested, deeply attached to the highs, and devastated by the lows. And Justin never really tried to downplay it. In fact, he openly admitted in interviews that what he had with Selena was powerful, life-shaping even. So when you fast forward to his current marriage with Hailey, you begin to understand why this emotional residue matters. Because that kind of connection doesn't just fade, it leaves a trace. And lately, that trace is becoming harder and harder for Hailey to ignore. Enter Hailey Baldwin, now Hailey Bieber, daughter of actor Stephen Baldwin. Her history with Justin goes back further than most people realize. In fact, it started long before the relationship even began. In 2009, when she was just 13, her father introduced her to Justin backstage at the Today Show. What seemed like an innocent fan moment eventually evolved into something far more intentional, and according to many observers, far more calculated. Over the years, internet detectives and former fans have pointed out behavior that paints a bigger picture. Hotel bookings where Justin was staying, showing up at the restaurants he frequented, even allegedly reaching out to fan accounts for tips on his whereabouts. By 2014, she wasn't just on the sidelines, she had embedded herself in Justin's social circle, thanks in part to her growing closeness with Kylie and Kendall Jenner, who were already friends with him. Suddenly, Hailey had direct access, and she used it. As her proximity to Justin grew, so did the whispers, not just about her presence, but about her intentions. Fans started noticing patterns that were hard to ignore. From outfits to tattoos, Hailey's image began echoing Selena's in ways that didn't feel coincidental. One moment stood out sharply in 2015. Selena had just debuted a delicate tattoo, the letter G behind her ear, a tribute to her younger sister, Gracie. Just 12 days later, Hailey appeared with an almost identical tattoo in the same spot. She claimed it was for a friend's child named Georgia, but the timing was too perfect to pass unnoticed. And this wasn't a one-off. Fast forward to 2019, and Hailey reveals a J tattoo on her ring finger. A nod to Justin, sure, but also suspiciously similar to a ring he had once given Selena back in 2012. From body art to fashion choices, fans documented what they saw as an ongoing effort by Hailey to step into Selena's aesthetic and possibly her emotional territory. Even professionally, the comparisons kept piling up. Hailey launched her own cooking show, What's in My Kitchen, and was almost immediately criticized for how closely it mirrored Selena's own Selena Plus Chef, which had premiered 2 years earlier. Everything, from the cozy kitchen setup to the grandmother voiceovers, felt too familiar. Viewers didn't see inspiration, they saw imitation. And as these echoes grew louder, so did the skepticism. Was Hailey trying to carve her own identity, or was she trying to recreate Selena's? To many, it seemed like she wasn't just building a life with Justin. She was building a blueprint to replace the woman who came before her. But despite the mounting comparisons, one truth remained constant. Selena's presence never really left. Not from Justin's music, not from the fan discourse, and, as this latest playlist incident suggests, not from Justin's heart. This lingering presence of Selena Gomez has never been more evident than in Justin's own words. In interviews, he has described their past relationship as all-consuming, a love so intense that nothing else mattered. Statements like that don't fade into the background, especially not when the person saying them is now married to someone else. For Hailey, hearing those sentiments, and then allegedly discovering a playlist of songs tied to that very history, must have felt like a slap. Because this wasn't just about the past creeping in, it was about realizing that maybe it never really left. The playlist in question reportedly held songs that weren't random. They were meaningful. Tracks from the Jelena era, songs that Justin and Selena shared memories around, lyrics that echoed late-night drives, reconciliations, heartbreaks. It was, in essence, an emotional time capsule. And finding that kind of curated vault in your partner's phone is more than a red flag. It's confirmation of a fear that's quietly lived in the back of your mind. Insiders claim Hailey's reaction was immediate: hurt, anger, disbelief. For someone who spent years trying to build her place in Justin's life, this wasn't just emotional, it was existential. Because what does it mean if the person you married still clings to a love before you? Even worse, what if they never stopped loving her at all? The confrontation that followed was, according to sources, explosive. Hailey wanted answers. Was this playlist a one-off, or was it proof that she'd never really won the battle she'd been silently fighting? For years, Justin reportedly tried to downplay the situation, calling it a nostalgic habit, something with no real bearing on the present. But for Hailey, it wasn't that simple, because the real question wasn't about a few songs, it was about emotional loyalty. Was she the wife on paper, while another woman still held the spotlight in his memory? To really grasp the weight of this confrontation, you have to look at the timeline. After his final breakup with Selena in early 2018, Justin reconnected with Hailey almost immediately. Within weeks, he proposed. And by September that year, they were married. To the public, it felt rushed, a whirlwind romance that skipped the usual healing arc. Then came October 2019. Selena released Lose You to Love Me, a song that shattered the internet. Lyrics like, "In 2 months, you replaced us like it was easy," weren't subtle. They were a direct hit. Fans knew exactly who she was talking about. And just as the track started to trend, Hailey posted a screenshot of Summer Walker's "I'll Kill You" on her Instagram story. She claimed it wasn't a response to Selena, that the timing was purely coincidental. But the internet wasn't buying it. Since then, Hailey has tried to put distance between herself and the Jelena comparisons. In interviews, including her infamous appearance on Call Her Daddy, she's insisted that there was no overlap, no betrayal, no timeline drama, but the questions have never gone away. Some fans even believe that Justin and Selena's final reconciliation in early 2018 wasn't just a brief reunion. It was tied to something far more serious. Blind items and online speculation have hinted at a possible pregnancy and miscarriage, though these claims remain unverified and should be treated cautiously. Still, the emotional weight of those rumors continues to cast shadows over what followed. Because whether or not they're true, the rapid shift from Selena to Hailey left the public with a sense that something hadn't been properly closed, that Justin had never truly processed what he left behind before building something new. In that context, the playlist discovery hits even harder. It's not just a present betrayal. It's a reopening of old wounds, questions left unanswered, emotions that never got the closure they deserved. Insiders claim the confrontation didn't just touch on the songs themselves, but the entire emotional landscape that Hailey has had to navigate since day one. She reportedly asked Justin questions he wasn't prepared to answer, about whether he had truly let go of Selena, about what those songs really meant, about whether she was his partner or just a placeholder. For someone who's spent years being, compared to an ex, online, in the media, and perhaps in her own home, that playlist wasn't just music. It was evidence. Evidence that the ghost of Selena hadn't just haunted their marriage, it had never left the room. And this isn't just about personal insecurities, it's about how that emotional tension bleeds into every corner of Hailey's life. Her public image, her business ventures, even her personal style. Fans have documented what they believe are endless echoes of Selena in Hailey's choices, and not just superficial ones. From fashion and poses to the branding of her beauty line, critics point to similarities with Selena's rare beauty in both tone and presentation. Whether fair or not, these comparisons have created a relentless narrative that Hailey has not only struggled to step out of Selena's shadow, but that her very identity has been defined by it. And the more she tries to prove she's her own person, the more the internet circles back to the woman who came before her. For Hailey, that has to be exhausting, a constant, unspoken battle to be seen, not just as Justin's wife, but as someone who stands fully on her own. But if Hailey has been haunted by comparison, Justin hasn't made it any easier. In interviews, his words about Selena have been anything but neutral. He's called her the love of his life. He's described their connection as so in love nothing else mattered. That's not something a spouse forgets, especially when those declarations continue to echo across YouTube clips, TikToks, and headlines. According to sources, when confronted about the playlist, Justin tried to tread carefully. He reassured Hailey of his commitment, tried to explain that music has always been his way of processing emotion, that nostalgia doesn't necessarily mean longing. But for Hailey, those explanations rang hollow. After everything she's endured, the scrutiny, the competition, the relentless comparisons, this wasn't just about his process, it was about her position. Was she the one being chosen now, or had she always been the second choice? A consolation prize in the aftermath of a legendary love story? And while Justin may have thought the conversation was about songs, Hailey knew better. It was about memory, about emotion, about the version of him that never really said goodbye to his past. According to those close to the couple, this wasn't the first time these tensions had surfaced, but this time, it felt more raw, more direct. The playlist wasn't symbolic. It was physical, tangible, a manifestation of feelings that Hailey had long suspected but never had proof of. And while Justin may have tried to defend it as harmless, the message was clear. Parts of him were still stuck in that old world, a world that Hailey had spent years trying to replace but could never fully erase. The emotional fallout from this confrontation goes beyond the playlist. It cracked open something deeper. Years of silent tension and buried insecurity that had been building between Justin and Hailey since the beginning. Because this wasn't just about a moment of emotional carelessness. It was about a foundation that may never have been stable to begin with. Their relationship began in the shadow of a storm, a rapid-fire engagement that many believed was more about running from something than stepping into something new. Since then, fans have pointed out signs of strain, public appearances where the couple looked distant, interviews where answers felt rehearsed, and now the uncomfortable truth of a playlist that spoke louder than words. Compounding all of this is the ongoing speculation that their marriage has been teetering for some time. Hailey's father, Stephen Baldwin, recently took to social media asking fans to pray for the couple, a move that only fueled existing divorce rumors. Insiders claim the two may not have been living together consistently. Observers have noticed them arriving at and leaving events separately, even appearing emotionally disconnected during public outings. And when you add in the pressure of millions of fans watching your every move, dissecting every lyric, post, or outfit, the weight becomes unbearable. This isn't just a private relationship issue. It's a public pressure cooker, where every emotional misstep becomes a trending topic. And in that context, the playlist becomes something more. Not just a personal betrayal, but a symbol of everything that hasn't been resolved, from the past they never outran to the future that's now uncertain. For Hailey, the playlist wasn't just a reminder of Justin's emotional past. It was a painful confirmation of a fear she's likely carried for years, that despite all the effort, all the time, all the public appearances and private sacrifices, she still might not fully have his heart. And that realization hits even harder when you consider how much of her life has been devoted to this one relationship. From her teenage years to her 20s, Hailey has been tethered to Justin, first as a fan, then as a friend, and finally as a wife. The discovery of that playlist felt like a breaking point, not because she didn't expect ghosts from the past to linger, but because she had hoped, maybe even convinced herself, that she'd exorcised them by now. And that fear of being a placeholder in someone else's unresolved story doesn't just shake you emotionally, it shakes your identity. Hailey has spent years trying to build a life with Justin, a brand, a marriage, a future. But how do you build when you're still competing with the past, especially when that past keeps showing up in the form of tattoos, fan edits, viral throwbacks, and now playlists? For Justin, that playlist may have been an innocent archive of memories, but for Hailey, it was a mirror, reflecting everything she never wanted to believe, that the version of Justin she married might still be emotionally stuck in a chapter she never belonged to. And even if the confrontation ends, the damage lingers. Because the question remains, what does it mean to be someone's present when their heart is still partly living in the past? What makes this even more heartbreaking is the emotional complexity on Justin's side. He's not playing games, at least not intentionally. By most accounts, his feelings are real, messy, unresolved, and deeply rooted. He's admitted to struggling with depression, substance abuse, and the toll fame has taken on him. And when it comes to love, especially a love that defined his youth like Selena did, letting go isn't just hard, it's often impossible. The playlist wasn't about rekindling something, it was about remembering, about trying to hold on to the person he was when he still believed in that kind of love. But in doing so, he may have unintentionally betrayed the person who's been standing by him now. For Hailey, it's not just about what Justin feels, it's about what he shows. She's been patient, supportive, publicly loyal in a way most people wouldn't be under this kind of scrutiny. But every supportive gesture has been shadowed by fan culture that still sees her as the villain, the one who replaced a fan-favorite romance with a marriage that never quite convinced the world. Even now, when news broke of her pregnancy, the trending topic wasn't her, it was Selena. That alone tells you how deeply embedded this triangle is in public consciousness. And for Hailey, that can't just be frustrating. It has to be soul-crushing, because she's not just fighting for her relationship. She's fighting for recognition, for emotional security, and maybe even for her sense of self in a love story she can't seem to escape. The confrontation over the playlist didn't just stir up old memories. It pulled the curtain back on the emotional imbalance that's long been speculated about in Justin and Hailey's relationship. According to insiders, the argument didn't stay surface level. It spiraled into a deeper conversation about past wounds, future fears, and the identity crisis that has slowly crept into their marriage. Hailey reportedly voiced what so many outsiders have suspected for years, that she's tired of being compared to someone she never stood a chance against. That it's exhausting to feel like she has to constantly prove herself, not just to the world, but to her own husband. And Justin, in his attempt to defend his memories, may have unintentionally validated her worst fears. He allegedly insisted he had the right to keep parts of his past, that remembering doesn't equal regret, and that nostalgia doesn't threaten his present. But what he didn't seem to understand is that for Hailey, it wasn't about permission. It was about priority, about emotional space, about whether she truly occupies the core of his heart, or whether she's just filling a void left behind. It's not just about love, it's about emotional security, something that becomes nearly impossible to maintain when you're constantly living in the echo chamber of a love story you never authored. And as this confrontation played out, it forced both Justin and Hailey to confront a question they may have been avoiding for years. Can a marriage survive when one person is still emotionally tethered to someone else?